My name is Taylor LeDuc, and I chose to do my capstone on developing a resource guide for parents of juvenile sex offenders. Now, the reason why I chose this as my capstone project is obviously for some personal reasons. Just growing up, my brother sexually offended on my little sister, and as I looked back growing up and just reflecting on how that experience was for us as a family and how it impacted my dad and my grandma, who were obviously the ones who were most involved. And I realized how big, or how big the need for more resources are in terms of helping families of juvenile sex offenders. I say this because when it comes to juvenile sex offender treatment, they are given all sorts of different resources, whether it's med management. They do a relapse prevention plan, so that way when they come home, if that's an option, they have a plan set in place. They identify their triggers and red flags and situations where they can and cannot be alone with people, and they get all this other kind of stuff, and they get taught coping skills on how to handle their triggers and any like sexual urges and all that kind of stuff, right? And so for the perpetrator, there's all these things involved, and then when it comes to the victim, they also receive treatment, right? Because that's a very traumatizing experience for the victim themselves. But what I also found in just through research and doing a needs assessment with my dad, it came out to that it's not only traumatizing for the victim and the perpetrator, but it's also traumatizing for the parent. My dad and research also showed that parents reported feelings similar to grief and loss, anger, a sense of responsibility for their child's behavior, felt that they weren't doing enough as a parent, and all this other kind of stuff. And so just going off of kind of like what I saw my dad go through and what the research was showing, I was like, you know what, like why not develop a resource guide that has like all these different aspects and connect resources to them. And so some issues that I found that parents of juvenile sex offenders typically struggle with range from everything from substance abuse to going to individual therapy to be able to cope with the initial event and identify coping skills and like process feelings of grief, loss, anger, shame, guilt, like all this other kind of stuff. And family therapy, it has been proven through research that juvenile sex offenders already have a low like relationship, or like a not very good relationship with their parents and with their caregivers anyways. And so this event that they go through, or that they end up like experiencing, ends up worsening the relationship. And so being able to have family therapy to be able to kind of mend those relationships again and kind of bring back that family dynamic is a really important protective factor, in addition to the fact that parental involvement in juvenile sex offender treatment is immense to reducing recidivism rates. As far as what clinicians can do in terms of helping parents of juvenile sex offenders, if you ever come in contact with them, is using strength-based perspectives, identifying their strengths and identifying that they have either, if they came to you right away, acknowledging the strength to be there and to show up and to be willing to seek treatment and seek help. If not, then identifying like, hey, you've been able to cope with this for so long on your own. That's huge. Some of the things that I found is being able to acknowledge possible barriers that could prevent parents or families from participating in treatment, whether that's lack of childcare or not being able to afford like any financial struggles, or they don't have access to a car to get to treatment, all this other kind of stuff. So being able to acknowledge those barriers and be able to help connect them to resources will be huge in that aspect. In addition to being able to have empathy, trust, connect, and just overall just build that therapeutic relationship with the parent. In the needs assessment that I did with my dad, something that he mentioned over and over and over again was that he felt that he was left out of the loop when it came to my brother's treatment. He didn't really get a say. They kind of were just like, oh, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. He didn't really know what was actually going on. And so he felt like that the therapeutic relationship wasn't that great. And he wonders the validity of the treatment that my brother was receiving. And so being able to be open and honest in regards to their child's treatment is huge going forward. So yeah, that's all I have so far.